What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the G.O.A.T pod, where we look at all kinds of really cool albums. You know, it's a great pod. It's a great day. Last week we looked at Abbey Road by the Beatles, and today we're looking at the Dangerous album by Michael Jackson. How's everyone doing? I'm Daniel.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Jarrett.
And I'm Jared. I'm Steven.
So, random question for you guys today before we jump into this. What was the last type of soup you had?
Oh. I'm going to start off with
That's
my
not
name
what I was
answer.
expecting.
You ready for this one?
Is it chicken noodle?
I'll eat soup.
Dude.
So I probably had one at some point. I don't know what it was.
Comment section. Roast him right now. Comments.
Have
roast
at
him.
it.
Okay.
He's a cereal guy.
It's been so long since I've... Well, okay, are we counting cereal as soup?
No.
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 What's your problem?
No.
If we were, it'd be Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but...
Pretty sure we said no, we're not counting.
We're not counting it.
I had no answer for the other question, so I had to give an answer to some question.
You can't remember like the last soup you had. Like you didn't do like a chili cook-off.
I don't remember
or, like...
eating a soup.
That's crazy.
I'm sure I did at some point.
Comment section. Sick 'em.
Me and my wife had chicken and dumplings.
Oh,
few
very
weeks
nice.
ago.
Very nice.
I actually
It
have.
was a recipe we found in a book, and it was very heavy dumpling. So when we do it in the future, we're going to cut the dumplings in half.
Very nice.
I would double the dumplings and cut the soup.
That's just a soggy biscuit at that point.
That sounds great.
You
Yeah,
gotta be.
good
You
time.
gotta tread lightly when you're talking about dumplings. I actually have the type of suit. I anticipated this question.
For our folks on audio only, what did you just hold up?
It is creamy chicken noodle, so pretty
you rip
boring.
the
But it's kind of
top
cool that I have it right here at my desk. That's where I keep my my soups. You always got to be prepared if someone asks a lame soup
Yeah,
question.
always got to be prepared. You never know. You never know. We keep it light on the G.O.A.T pod. Well, let's jump right in. Oh, mine was chicken noodle soup, which was I think yesterday I had some chicken noodle soup.
Wow.
It was delicious.
The vanilla
Nobody is adventurous with their soups at all.
It's flu season. You got to take care of yourself. It's flu
That's
season.
true. I guess tomato soup would be the vanilla of soups. I take it back.
Even that, man. What would be the
I
vanilla?
think
like
tomato soup
beef
would be
stock
the tomato
alone.
of soups. I'm pretty sure.
I'd get behind that, given what little I can get behind of your takes on soup. Anyways, we're going to jump right into the Dangerous album by Michael Jackson. This is not from the Jackson 5. The Jacksons, he's a solo artist. The producers on this album were Michael Jackson, Bill Bottrell, ?
I think so.
I'm going to keep looking at Jason. He usually knows how to pronounce these things. Bruce
Betrayal's how I would
Swedian?
say it.
Yeah.
I'd say Swedian.
Teddy Riley with, at this point in his career, he had severed ties with Quincy Jones. They were together for how many albums? 3 or 4, maybe?
Yeah,
At
3.
least.
Very successful together, but he cuts ties with Quincy Jones at this point. It was recorded in many different studios in California, and it was released officially on November 26th, 1991. What came before this as a part of Michael Jackson's career was the Jackson 5 or the Jacksons and his off-the-wall Thriller and Bad albums, some of the other greatest albums of all time. And the album artwork, which, what an album cover.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just wild, is by Mark Ryden. Before we jump into the track list, guys, any immediate thoughts?
Oh, one thing, just as we said, it was recorded in several different studios. You can look into more how they all work. But I was looking at one thing, and there was like one person, I think, that was working with it. It may have been Teddy Riley. It may have been somebody else. I can't remember. But somebody during this album was getting paid $4,000 a day to be doing studio work. And that's to say on one studio. Like, that person was only at one studio. So the amount of money that went into the production of this album is kind of insane in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Now, are you talking engineers or artists?
I think it was an engineer, like that
Okay.
got paid that.
I think
money. I
that's
don't
right.
think everybody. Obviously, I don't think any studio musicians were rolling in,
No,
cutting
no.
like 2 takes and being like, "All right,
Maybe-
here's your
maybe
$4,000."
peanuts.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
or just like the
Yeah.
knowledge that you were on a Michael Jackson album. That I
Yeah.
would do it for that. So
Yeah.
Likewise. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's. Any other thoughts before I move on?
Yeah, I think it's like kind of going back into that background. So this is the end of an era, right? This is we've had Off the Wall, we've had Thriller, which is his best-selling album.
Oh, yeah.
If you're following along, you already know where Thriller's going to land, and then Bad came right before
Spoilers,
this.
sir.
I didn't say where it was going to be, but it's like you've got this guy who is number one everywhere. And now he's trying to figure out what to do on his own, So he's got so when he released Thriller, he was still part of his brother's band, the Jacksons, and then he severs ties with them, records Bad, strikes out on his own very first tour, the Bad tour, and is like, all right, like how do I top this? What can I do to be the most or the greatest entertainer of the world?
Yeah.
And what do I do in this new decade? He released Bad in 1987. And in the meantime, the 4 years between Bad and Dangerous, hip hop becomes very, very relevant and comes on the scene. And you've got bands like, almost said Pink Floyd.
they're
already there.
my favorite hip hop group.
Pearl
Yeah.
Jam. I always get Pink Floyd and Pearl Jam mixed up. Random moments.
It's got to be another podcast episode. What bands do you commonly confuse?
Right.
Nirvana and Nickelback for me. That's
But you've got
Conway
Nirvana,
Twitty.
you've got Pearl Jam, all these rock
Wow.
bands.
yeah.
And so in the meantime, Michael Jackson's trying to figure out, what do I do? Do I continue with this like funk, soul, 80s sound that I've got? No, he decides ultimately, I want to do something new. And so he hires, Dan said him earlier, he has these 3 other producers instead of Quincy Jones, and each one brings something different. So like Bill Bottrell, he's known as the rock guy. And so if you listen to this album, it's not just like, oh yeah, like I could obviously see Michael Jackson doing this one style of genre. Like it hops everywhere.
Yeah.
And you, like, a lot of the critics at the time hated this album because of that, and we'll get into that in a bit. But like you've got a rock guy, you've got a guy who's into like New Jack Swing was very popular. Forget, I don't have the list in front of me now. Bruce Sweetie, and like more of like the ballads, orchestral kind of stuff. Like this album is everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like coming into the 90s with this kind of big sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to say that I haven't like really delved into Michael Jackson at all until now. Like I knew about his hits and all that stuff, but I never sat down and listened to a Michael Jackson album.
Speaking of hits, that triggers something I actually found out when I was researching the album. This album wasn't even supposed to exist, like in the form that we have it.
Wow.
It was, so Bad comes out 87, and then the record label's like, what if you put out a compilation album? We'll call it Decade, and it just covers, Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, 1979, 1989. You can put like a few new songs on there, and he's like, bet. And so as he's like experimenting with all these sounds, he keeps writing songs that he likes and wants to put on something. And so the compilation album keeps getting delayed by like a few months, by a year, 2 years. And by that time they're like, just put out a new album. And so he does.
Do it.
Man. All right. Well, unless anything else needs to be said, I am going to keep the mic right on Jarrett. Tell us what songs are on this album.
Yeah. So just running through the track list, we've got Jam, Why You Want to Trip on Me, In the Closet, She Drives Me Wild, Remember the Time, Can't Let Her Get Away, Heal the World, Black or White, Who Is It, Give In to Me, Will You Be There, Keep the Faith, Gone Too Soon, and the title track Dangerous. And what's interesting to me
I was getting
is
scared there. It wasn't going to come up.
Yeah. Roll credits.
what's interesting to me is like you can find this on Wikipedia, but the track listing on the actual album doesn't credit the artists that are featured on the tracks. Like he has Heavy D on Jam. What's called the Mystery Woman on In the Closet is we now know as Princess Stephanie of Monaco. Records in Effect in She Drives Me Wild. LTB, the group in Black or White. Slash from Guns N' Roses is on Give In to Me. Delving into Michael Jackson's interest in rock music, continuing to have famous guitarists in his stuff, and then to showcase how diverse Michael Jackson is in his taste in music and who all he can just record with. We go from Slash to the Cleveland Orchestra and the Andre Crouch Singers right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, like this makes sense. I'm going to go right from a rock song into a gospel choir song. That's not, bless you. That's not something that you would think to do, but that's just who Michael Jackson was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great album. Like right off the bat, great album. It truly is a heck of a journey.
It's a journey.
Did you guys get any? It's a journey.
Like Jason made a face.
Jason, you got something you want to say?
I disagree. I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Really? Tell us.
Yeah.
Do tell us.
So, and we'll see. We'll get into it as we go through some of the points. I think, like you said, critics at the time were not a fan, and critics at this time are not a fan as well. I think there are a lot of really good songs, but as an album, I don't like it as an album. Like, I think there are bits of 3 albums that they've tried to mash together and call one album. And then because it's bits of 3 albums they're trying to call one album, we're missing parts of 3 albums that don't exist. It's like there's probably like, I don't know. I'd have to figure out exactly where all the lines go. But I was listening to the album. I use Spotify, so I have like a crossover play. And like every song is like on its own, and then the next one's just something different, and it's like cool. But as an album, it's like I think this one just is hanging on the fact that he is such an incredible musician in his own right, and anybody's right, and is just so well known that it's gonna sell.
Yeah.
I think if it weren't Michael's voice on it, and this was just an album that went out, I don't think I would listen to it. That's my hot take. I think if somebody said, hey, there's this new album by this new group, and it's all the same songs, everything's the same, you just just take Michael's voice and get somebody else that has a wonderful voice. Like, I'm not saying put somebody with a bad voice on it. But other than like a few of the singles, like Heal the World is obviously an incredible song. Black and White, fantastic. Yes. Even though I would say that the intro is pointless. It's a cool intro. It has nothing to do with the song. And even like
the intro is a great
songs.
Reason to watch the music video, but that's about it.
Well, but that's the thing, and I think that's what we'll get into as we continue on, and I'll say it as we get to it. There's a lot of it that's like, it would be great if blank, and we'll get to that as we continue on. So let's get to some lyrics and themes, and I will bring out my critiques as we continue.
Yeah, I really loved the album. I know you were saying that I might disagree with Jason this album, but I actually disagree, and I'm sort of ambushing you now.
Oh man,
yeah, but I mean I understand, like as an album, it's not like cohesive. I think it might be sort of self-aware about that. If you look at the album art, it's all like it's just a collage of different photos and depictions. But I actually I have a question. I haven't listened through like all of Michael Jackson's albums like before this, but is this one more rocked up than the other ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
go ahead.
He started with Beat It. Beat It was his first like rock song. And you can't see me if you're just listening to the but air quotes rock song. And I think it does count as a rock song.
I would count
but
it.
it's his interpretation of rock coming from a pop artist.
Yeah.
And then from that you go into Bad. You've got Dirty Diana. And you've got like beats that hit hard. It's not like completely rock, but this is like the first album where he's got like a lot of guitar. And even like Slash, like being as a featured artist. I mean, you had Van Halen on Beat It, and I can't remember who was on Dirty Diana, but this is the first album you've got guitars pretty much throughout the whole album. Not that Slash is throughout. He's just on Give In To Me, but you've got that hard electric guitar rock sound throughout.
Yeah,
This is the first
I
time.
think that's why I like it so much. Like I'm a rock guy, and I like all of these songs are really epic to me. I love them, but the ones that I don't like are the ones that are like the least rock and roll. Like Heal the World, I didn't care for that one.
Yeah.
It reminded me way too much of Reading Rainbow. I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
I
That
get
is a fair
exactly
assessment.
what you're going
That's what it
That,
made me feel.
that makes
like.
sense.
Yeah. But all the other stuff, like his vocals are like super like staccato and distorted, but also like you can hear there's a clear note underneath the distortion. And
My wife-
his vocals are just like so much a part of the beat. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I was listening to this album earlier on the way to the grocery store with my wife, and she does not like Michael Jackson's voice, which hits me in the heart.
Wild.
And I love her anyway.
That hurts.
But she said that Michael Jackson's voice sounded like if you were squinting your eyes and like what you imagine that voice might sound like. That face.
That's kind of accurate. I'll give her that.
yeah.
I see
I
where
guess
she's
I can
going.
see that.
That's still a wonderful voice to me, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll squint at
and
that
That's
voice
tough.
any day.
That's kind of tough to
His,
hear. That's
I love Steven
it's weird.
Smolder at the camera right now. It's fantastic.
listening to Michael Jackson, like I said before this, I hadn't listened to any like Michael Jackson like all the way through. Like I've heard his hits and stuff, but I definitely get the hype now from like how like everyone says like Michael Jackson is just such an expert and master at music. Yeah, I can tell that throughout the album. This might be weird to say. I mean, it's not as weird as the squinting eye comment from Jared's wife, but listening to the beat in this music made me feel like I was constantly inhaling, and then on the snare, it was a sharp exhale and a slap in the face. But in the best way possible. Like it was
made you feel things.
yeah, and it made me understand like his dance moves, like how he danced to his music, because it like was super precise and jerky, but also a little bit graceful as well. And Michael Jackson, he's famously very hostile toward his groin when he's dancing, and I understood why like as I was listening, I was like, yeah, I want to punch it, you know.
You could hear the pain.
Yeah, it was,
Put that on a t-shirt. Man, I want to punch it.
and this may these comments
And if
may
you would
sound,
buy
may
that
sound
from
like
our shop, just
Yeah.
give us a like.
Shopify link next.
these
Link in
comments
bio.
may sound bad, like I'm not enjoying the music, but it's just in the best way.
Yeah.
All this stuff, like I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a fan. I think we're going to keep running into this as we listen to more of some of the greatest albums of all time. But the quoted stuff, how much of it was used in other art forms. In particular, I I kept telling Jason I was going to look this up, and I never did. But the "We Are the World" for Africa was, I'm pretty sure, written, and like the credit goes to Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson. I believe that's correct.
I think
So
so.
in, what is it, Heal the World, we hear there are people dying, but it's in just like a slightly different cadence, but it's the same words. And it totally, like, I don't know, he didn't have to do that, but he did. And I was a fan of it. Maybe it's because Michael Jackson's name's attached to it, but I found myself throughout this album being impressed that each of the different genres he was touching, he was kind of like, if he wasn't already there, he was in the process of mastering, is what it felt like to me throughout this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Like I said
think
before,
he
I
had
really
a lot
liked
of
it.
really neat things he was working on. For me, it was too many things to make it a great album, and I think that's my thing. Is I'm judging it on an album where a lot of the songs and the themes that in each song are really neat, but it seems very disjunct. And it's a thing, and we'll do hot takes. I think some of T Swift's newest albums are fine, but not great albums. But they're getting sold because, I mean, it's Taylor Swift, like, and it's still good music. But as an album, like '89's a better album than
Oh, top
Midnight's,
notch.
or Red is a
Yeah.
better album than Evermore. But it's like they're still going to sell just as much because it's her, and there's enough good stuff that it makes
Yeah.
good sense to buy it. But if I'm going to go out and rank albums, even with just ranking albums that he did, I'm going to say Bad and Thriller are better albums, though there are some really awesome songs and new things he's getting into that I think fit to the time when it was released, and it fit to the theme of like the
Yeah.
way music was moving. But as an album, it's like, all right, I think you were kind of running on the fact that you're famous a little bit. Not to say like, oh, he's only famous because he's famous. I think that's a really lame argument, but he's using a lot of that for the reason this made this list.
One thing I found as I was researching it, if you watch the Dangerous 30 documentary on YouTube by The Detail, they talk about how this album, he just kept perfecting a bunch of different songs and just kept writing and doing stuff. And so it definitely is, or can feel disjointed. And at the same time, it's supposed to, because this is what he's writing about. And like he covers a whole lot of topics, like world peace and sexual immorality and togetherness and wanting to be in a relationship or avoiding like so many different things. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do you go from talking about world peace to your lover leaving you? Like, what's that logical jump there? And there isn't one, but he makes the jump. And I think this is 91. So this is on CD. This is not vinyl records anymore.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is not, you ran out of side A, you flip it to side B. This is all one cohesive album. And I also find it interesting that Heal the World is number 7, and it's smack dab in the middle of this 14 song work. So it's like everything ties back to Heal the World, which I will say in the beginning, before I did any research and just listened to it, was my least favorite track. Or I'd say the slow ones were probably like my least favorite, because I'm like, let's just get the bangers, man.
Yeah, me too.
Let's just, keep the beat. Boom. But as you listen to it and you look into what he's writing about, it's like, oh, okay, I can vibe with this. I wish there was a subtle, because I think like Jason and I think similarly, when we listen to an album, we want it to be cohesive. We want it to be like logical and flow and ebb in a way that makes sense to us. And so when we have a stark jump from track to track, and it's not like, like this doesn't make any sense, that turns us off. But kind of understanding this is supposed to.
Well, I was going to say, I think that he could have actually done the jumps almost better with how the intros and the outros of the tracks go. And I think that, like, because I don't have any issues with it being all over the place. Like, I've obviously not anywhere top albums. I just want to make a statement on this. I'm not trying to compare these albums at all. But there's the album that 10th Avenue North did for Christmas. But every single track was a different... Yeah. Every single track was a different decade, like musically no connection. But even as it's going all over the place, like you can see, I see the jumps that are making. I see how we're going to this decade and stuff. There's some level of structure. And even like in the sense that on the album cover, like, does anybody know who the person right in the middle, right at the front is?
Michael Jackson.
Anybody? Nope. There's a person. There's like a white band right at the front.
Oh, is it
Macaulay Culkin?
He's got like a tie.
No, Macaulay Culkin is in there.
What?
Zoom in. Yeah, Macaulay Culkin is in the bottom right. But you're talking about Barnum, I think.
Yep, that's the one.
Right,
I'm talking
the
about.
old guy with the bow tie.
Oh.
Yep. P.T. Barnum and Bailey Circus, which makes sense. Like he was doing an album that's like, hey, we're showing you a lot of different novelties all in one.
Yeah.
But I think Barnum, even as he was showing all of that, like there's a flow to Barnum's Circus that you see these connecting elements and the transitions did better. And again, it's like there's a lot of songs I enjoy, but it's like I know that Michael is good enough musically that I wish he would have done something to maybe help smooth those transitions. Even if the smoothing of the transition is slow fade out and then like really big into the next, that's jumpy, where like every track it was like, all right, we faded out and there's just this big pause. And then at some point music starts again and it's like, all right, I would love to see all of these songs done in concert, but I'm not trying to listen to this album just as, oh yeah, this is something to put on and listen through. Which is, I think we can get to some of this. Like, I think the music videos are a huge factor of this album. That, like you said, like Black and White, like it makes really good sense when you watch the music video, but when you just listen to it and you don't see the interaction and the things going on around it, you miss a lot of the song, because a lot of the song isn't the music. It's the video. It's the scene that is set in.
Yeah. And I think I said it earlier, but Michael was really studying, I think it was Barnum. He was studying Barnum and the circus. Like, how can I be the greatest showman of all time, or like right now? How can I do that? And so, like I heard Linkin Park say this about one of their songs. Like you say you listen to this song, I see this song. And I think if you look at Dangerous, Michael Jackson would probably say the same thing. Like, yes, we're listening to the album, but he sees the album and he sees the songs and the art that he is doing and what's all being done. Because like you listen to Black and White, like, and it is, I think you mentioned, Jason, that it annoyed you and got old real quick. I would agree. Like the intro to Black and White, I really could do without. Like, just start the song. Like, we don't need this skit every time. But I think it is also, if you've seen the music video, if you haven't seen the music video, you should go stop listening right now, go to YouTube, look it up, come back.
I concur.
It's like, if you know the music video, then it automatically plays in your head whenever you listen to the song. And that's intentional. It's supposed to do that.
Awesome. Well, any other thoughts on music videos? Were there any more comments you guys had maybe on lyrics or themes throughout this album?
What'd you think about the black or white music video? Did y'all get a chance to look at that?
Oh, I loved it. I do.
That one's cool.
I've been watching that. I go through a Michael Jackson phase about once every 2 years where I just look at everything that there is to view of him on YouTube, mostly performances and whatnot. And I always find myself coming back to black or white every like at least once a year.
The shortened version or the full?
Oh no, the entire thing.
Okay.
You gotta. Macaulay Culkin rapping is incredible, even though it's not him. But like, such a strong child actor with such a strong like force of music nature. It was.
I heard.
I love that.
I heard that when they were filming Black or White, there was a day where they couldn't find Michael Jackson. Like he was just gone, and they were like, "Where did he go?" We were like, "It's like costing, $10,000 a day to film this thing.
Yeah.
Where is he at?" And he and Macaulay Culkin had gone to Toys R Us and were buying the store. And so the director of the music video, I can't remember his name, but the director of the music video like got on to Michael Jackson, was like, "You can't do this." And Michael was like, "Why not?"
Oh, that's ignorant.
And the director's like, "You've got like all these people here for you for this video. Like you can't just blow everyone off for toys." And Michael was, he showed up after that.
Nice.
Just gotta give him a stern talking to.
I would do what Michael did. Blow him off for toys.
Yeah. If I myself didn't get a childhood, I would do it in my 20s. Like
Fair.
I would have done the exact same thing given the situation.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on music videos? Any of them stood out to y'all? Black or White's a classic. It is.
I think that part near the end where like all the faces morph back and forth. That's just really cool videography.
Yeah.
Not as that old ago, but like to do that then, like that's a feat in itself to do today with a whole lot more digital changing things that we have. So
being able to do that without AI, come on.
Oh.
To be a nerd real quick. One thing I learned about that was
you dork.
that is called that was the first use of feature-based morphing, which was only used in motion pictures or movies.
Wow.
That's
wow.
awesome.
So this was the first time it's not used in a movie. And
That's
pretty cool.
They did it well. I like that.
Yeah.
Of all the things, I'm not a fan of this album. I think I really like that. I like the music videos. I think your statement from Linkin Park of seeing it, like I think that's really accurate. Like I think this album, as almost like a movie, would be better. Like just I'd love to sit and watch this album a whole lot more than I'd like to sit and listen to this album.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing. In case you're listening and you're like, man, they really just kind of blew past the album artwork. There's so much to go in. We could probably spend like 2 hours talking about the different meanings of every individual image in the album. And so there's different like documentaries you can find and articles you can read about it. So I encourage you to go read those. But yeah, this is one of those albums where there's so much going on that you really just need to sit and listen and watch and read.
Mm-hmm. I've mentioned some of my favorite, or I love the music quotes throughout this and stuff that's still being used and stuff that's still being quoted. Do you guys have any musical needities from this album?
I do indeed have a few musical needities of apparently my own invention. Just the term, not not what I'm talking about. So one is I guess it falls in here. So Teddy Riley, that's one of his producers, is kind of credited. I mean, it's hard to say who gets credited with creating a genre of music, but he's kind of the name that is credited for the genre of New Jack Swing, which was just coming about. And so the fact that he's brought in and then does it, like he and Michael do portions of New Jack Swing, which you can hear a lot in the drum machines that they use. I think this album uses an Akai drum machine. I can't remember which one, but like this is a new thing that's being used in a lot of hip hop tracks, and the use of this style of drum machine backing combined with really neat cut-ins of just different sample bits to make the rhythm through the sample bit rating, which is a fun term to use when putting together tracks. And so it's a really neat thing that Michael goes and he finds this guy that's doing something new in the time, and then brings him in and says, "Hey, you're doing awesome things. I'm going to work with you." And I think that's something that a lot of great musicians, great people in time are known because they find people that are also doing great things and bring them along with, and don't say, "Oh, I got to do my own thing," and push away other people that are doing great things. He's like, "Nah, like you're doing great stuff. Let's work together." Now, my musical nudity also comes to another reason of my not big fan is the use of the drum machine. I'm a sucker for acoustic stuff. I'm not a big fan of the drum machine. I think a lot of it would have been better if they could have found ways to do the same beats with actual drummers making them. And I'm a huge fan of sampling. I think sampling is really cool, of digitally adding in a bunch of different recordings. But I was doing this thing where I was jumping around through some of the tracks, and you could literally jump to any point in the track and you wouldn't notice that you skipped a part of the song, because the drum machine is the exact same from about 20 seconds in to 2 seconds before the ending. And it's a crazy thing to do if you take chance. There's certain songs you can't do it with Heal the World, just because you land at a very different part of what's happening.
Whole different key.
But even in like Jam, like if you jump in Jam and then all of a sudden 20 seconds in you just jump to like 48 seconds, like you're not gonna really notice that you missed anything. And there's some extended parts that, again, if in a live recording or with watching a music video with dancing along with it, it'd be really cool. But there's some sections where it's like it's just the drum machine and the samples doing the same loop again and again, without something changing. Like Give In to Me is a great one where Slash is going over it, and there's some difference while the drum machine's doing the same thing. And so Slash was ripping all his wonderful licks along with, but there's some of them, I think I'm trying to remember which one I was listening to. I think it's She Drives Me Wild. There was a portion of like 20 seconds where it was just the same thing on loop. And for me personally, I can't be like, man, that's great. It's like, cool. I can put a drum machine on loop too. And so it's a neat thing, that musical nudity of using those drum machines. But for me, it drew some back from allowing his musicianship that was so great in so many parts. I felt like I got drawn back by these portions of times where it was just kind of, all right, we're just going to sit on this for a little while and not really do anything. But it's musical nudity. Akai drum machines and the use of New Jack Swing, which also, if you go listen to stuff, there was a song I was listening to today. Oh my goodness, I'll find it. I can't remember which one it is. Y'all go on to something else. If anybody else has musical nudities, you do that. I will find this song because it was fantastic, and I want to suggest it to the world.
Yeah. Well, and so a lot of the information I give is coming from the Dangerous 30 documentary. So if you're interested, you can go find that on YouTube. And if you're not interested, you can just listen to me talk about it.
Go watch it right now, and then come back.
Or just listen to me talk about it. But what's interesting? So yeah, like for us today, if you hear the same thing more than 2 times in a row, even like maybe 4 times, like we're done. Like this sounds great. Let's move on. But one thing I learned in watching this documentary is that every sound you hear, like even though like it may be like looped was
Yeah.
new, was created by Michael Jackson and whoever was producing the song. He did not want to sample anybody else's work. He didn't want to like anything that was already existing. He didn't want. Everything had to be new. So even the like, okay, like car horn on She Drives Me Wild, like that's not, completely like out there. But, and I don't know how they got the sound or whatever, but every sound you hear, every loop, everything that, we call a sample was created by Michael Jackson, essentially.
That's cool.
Except for like the Cleveland Orchestra, of course, like they,
Yeah. Very, very cool.
I found the song.
Yeah.
too.
Did you find it?
My Prerogative, Bobby Brown. Is,
yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Not to be confused
I was
by
also listening
the
to
compilation
Mary J.
album by Britney
Blige.
Spears.
What?
Say what, Jarrett?
Is he on the Britney Spears compilation?
Well, her compilation is My Prerogative.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, wait a second. But yeah, no, I was listening to a lot of like Mary J. Blige, which I think she does a lot of really neat stuff in this genre. But My Prerogative, that was the one that I was like, oh yeah, I'm vibing with this. I like this stuff. So
Cool. Let's see. All right. We've talked about some of our favorite parts already, but do you guys have any other highlights from this album?
Give In to me was really awesome. I had actually, this is one of the few songs that I had already heard because a very formative band for me, 3 Days Grace, covered it in their Transit to Venus, the last album. They had Adam Guntier as the vocalist, but yeah, they covered "Give In to Me," and I recognized the riff right when I played. It's a very recognizable riff, but the 3 Days Grace cover was like a lot more dark and rock and roll, but that's probably, I'd probably say either "Give In to Me" or "Why You Want to Trip on Me" was probably my favorites of the album. And then whatever is called Heal the World" was the worst.
Yeah.
Not a big fan, huh?
Yeah, no. Beans.
Oh, he's back.
Beans.
That's all. That's
Jarrett, Jason, what about y'all? What about some of your favorites? Or your,
well, my favorite was "Heal the World."
oh, you're the worst.
No, I think it's I enjoyed some of the like bangers, but I don't know that none of them hit me. I think the same as it may have hit y'all. So that's something cool with music is everybody has things that they love and other ones they don't. But I thought "Heal the World," I think just really cool melody in there. The message, especially at that time, it's just a neat song that he throws in the middle of this. As well as like, I mean, it's just one that's been done a bajillion times by a bunch of different artists. And I think it's the reason why it's the universal nature of the melody and the track itself. Like it's a simple enough track that you can kind of do a whole lot with it and it still be the same song. But it's detailed enough that it has enough that it's like, oh yeah, this is "Heal the World" and very different from other songs. It's not one that I think there's a lot of songs in different genres that you hear them and you're like, oh, that sounds similar to. It's like, yeah, you could put some songs similar, like "Reading Rainbow," but it's not like you hear this and you're like, oh man, which song is that? It's like, no, this is one recognizable just because of its how much has been done through the years, as well as I think just the way it's written. Least favorite, I don't know about least favorite. Honestly, it's probably Jam. I thought it was cool in the
It was not
background.
your jam.
It was not my. It was one of those things. I was like, I sit through and I say, of all the songs in this one, I think that's just my least favorite of all the songs. Because again, I like the songs, just don't like the album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jared, what about you? Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite song is one that we haven't talked about at all so far. But Who Is It?
Oh, that is a good one.
Oh yeah.
Just like you come in with that bass and drum, kind of like not quite like Billie Jean, although it's the same instruments, but it's like you just come in with a deep and powerful, and it's one of those things. It's not like, this isn't why it's my favorite, but it's something you definitely notice in this track is a lot of his pops and his vocal like isms come in as part of the beat, as part of the song, and that's something that I read that Quincy Jones got onto him about in like his earlier albums, was like, quit that popping. And like, but this is one of those songs you hear it and you can't really imagine the pattern without it. Like if you take away his vocals, it's just like, it's just the drums, but then you add his like, I can't do it. I can't reproduce it, but you listen to it and you hear him do it. And I think I saw a clip of him on Oprah singing the song. And like, as he's singing the song, he's like also like patting his knee and like sings and pops and sings and clicks. And like so many things are happening at the same time, but it's all coming from him.
Huh.
I think
that's pretty cool.
I know the clip you're talking about, and someone like edited it so that he was singing and Oprah was just like, please stop. I mean, and she's like looking at the producers like, what the hell is he doing? And he just like keeps on singing through it.
What do I do?
Yeah, it's not as cool when he's doing it just himself, but it is cool with the rest of the track.
Did you have a least favorite, Jarrett?
I think maybe Heal the
Yes.
World. Like, I just think personally, I feel like Man in the Mirror is a stronger song, and not on the album, of course, but like if I had to choose between Man in the Mirror and Heal the World, I'm going to choose Man in the Mirror.
It's because you can't mistake
and we'll
Man
talk
in the
more
Mirror
about that
for Leading
on a
Rainbow.
later
That's,
podcast.
that's not what we're talking about.
It's not
Jarrett.
on this album. We're
That's
talking
not
about
what
this
we're
album.
talking about, Jarrett.
But I
I
really
got a lot
like,
of songs I like better than the songs on this album, but we're not talking about that.
Plenty of personal opinions that don't relate to this.
but you know, out of the ballads or the slower songs on the album, I really love Keep the Faith and Will You Be There.
Yeah.
Like I'll go to those two before Heal the World.
Okay.
Not that I don't want the world healed or the world to be unified or anything like that. Just song wise, is my least favorite.
Yeah. Well, my two favorites. I know I was just asking for the one, I guess, but my two favorites were Heal the World
Unbelievable.
and Keep the Faith. I really, man. So I got to go see, there was the Michael Jackson production that was touring, and it came through our neck of the woods, and I got to go see it. And that Broadway level production had me sobbing through most of it. It was just amazing. The storytelling and the songs and the artists that were a part of that were so freaking cool. But Keep the Faith itself was such a powerful song. And when I got to hear it again, when I saw it was on the album, I was looking forward to it the entire first listen through. So Keep the Faith, really loved it, and Heal the World, really loved it. I'm with Jason on this. Jam didn't do it for me. Like
It was
a
jam. That's
it was a jam.
true statement. But
now, you could have played that on repeat, and I never would have been able to tell you when it ended.
That's fair. Yeah.
And not that that's like, the defining term for a favorite or least favorite song, but for me, that's kind of what causes it to be my least favorite on this album.
I do think this was like the first out of all the singles on this album. I think this was the first one to not hit number one.
Really?
No, that's not true. Heal the World didn't hit number one.
Oh,
only because
mic drop.
another song had come out at that time that was, I would say, definitely better than the song, and that was Whitney Houston's cover of "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, that makes sense. Never mind. Okay, so there's an asterisk there.
That's tough.
That one's hard to beat.
That's any other week of the year.
Yeah. Well, it is that time. Gentlemen, we'll start with Steven, then we'll go to Jason, then we'll go to Jarrett, because that's how it is on my screen. I don't know how it is on y'all's, but it's how it is on my screen. Tell me, between this album and Abbey Road,
Okay.
where does this rank for you?
So our rating system, it's from 0 to 10, right? And you can sort of do decimals, correct?
You can give it a 1 through 10, but then
or you can just put
do you rate
one
it higher
above the other.
or
Oh,
lower
I see.
than Abbey Road?
I would say lower than Abbey Road. And let's see, 1 through 10, I'd probably, because I gave Abbey Road like a 7 point something. And this one I'd probably give a 7. So it's not.
I'd have to go back and listen to the podcast to know what I rated.
I don't
Yeah,
Abbey Road.
I was trying to, because I don't want to contradict myself.
No, I
here, but-
averaged the numbers live.
I
and
think
in
we just
person.
said it was number one. I don't know if we actually gave it a number.
Oh,
That's what I was thinking.
I was.
Just ranking against different albums.
It's
not
my own personal
giving a
ranking
1 through
system.
10.
Then,
Sure,
which is
sure.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
But
Stephen
but
will
yeah,
do this
I'll
every
say
week.
I'll say
It's
below.
like
It's number 2.
Barstool Pizza
I'll
reviews.
say it's number 2.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Jason.
I'm gonna put this at 3 because I already know what we're doing for next week, and I like it better already.
You
So
can't.
I'm gonna put it at 3.
It's
So
not
I
on the
have
list yet.
That's
Abbey
not
Road
the
at
question
1
that was asked.
or 2. I have Abbey Road at 1 or 2, and then
It's not on the list yet. You can't do it.
I have it at a clear last place right now. I'm not
right.
saying it's gonna always be there. I need to
Yeah.
look through the other albums
yeah.
we're gonna get to.
Well, it's third place.
Some
that's
things
that's a
could fall
bronze
below.
medal.
But right now,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's still on the podium. Honestly, we all know the bronze medal is way better than the silver because the silver is like, man, you almost got the gold, and the bronze is like, hey, at least I'm on the podium.
That's-
So
That's
like,
true.
really, it's a better
about
place for me to
perspective.
put it.
And Gold's sitting there going, if you ain't first, you last.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
There is no
All
second
right.
place.
Well, Jarrett, what's your ranking for this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put this, number 2, and
Yeah.
yeah, I also agree with Jason on where it's gonna go next week. We're just gonna have to
That's
wait
great.
to get
we
there.
can get to that next week. Or next episode. It's not next week. It's next
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
Next
next
fortnight.
episode.
Next episode, whenever those come out. That's actually accurate.
Big.
Good use of that term. I like
Yeah,
that.
I like
why I
it. I
used
like
it.
it. Maybe next week, Jason will give us a definition so that I know what it means. Not today.
I'll tell you.
I'm sorry, not next week. Next episode. Whatever. Next fortnight. Did I use it correctly in a sentence?
Yeah, actually.
Yes. I am becoming less
Has
and less
nothing to
illiterate
do
every
with,
day.
the video
2
game.
weeks. It means 2 weeks.
Nothing
Yeah,
to do with that.
true. Okay, so Jarrett, Jason, and Steven all place it at number 2 on our list and ranking and whatnot. I'm going to do the same. Just as a
Are you just scared
album.
to say number 1?
no, I did like Abbey Road better than the Dangerous album by Michael
Somewhere
Jackson.
out there, there's a Michael Jackson fan listening to this podcast.
They're just,
And they
they're
are
just,
livid.
they're just so angry right now.
Send it, bro.
But
Tell us how we're wrong.
yeah, please. If you want to tell us how we're wrong, you are more than welcome to email us at thegoatpod@gmail.com. No,
The GOAT
what
pod
is it called?
email at gmail.com.
Is that right?
Pod email.
The GOATpod email at gmail.com. Or where can they find us on Instagram?
At the GoatPod _ nope, sorry. The Goat _
Underscott. Where are we?
The GOAT _pod on Instagram.
The goat fleet warp.
That's crazy. The GOAT scar. under
You're messing
Zod.
me up.
We are the Goat
With
Squad.
liberty and
but,
justice.
I knew how to correct you in my head. It just I couldn't do it out loud. Apparently.
Well, that'll do it for this episode. Next episode, we will be looking at Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Gosh, what a mouthful.
or
By
as
the Beatles.
Jarrett calls it.
Ooh.
Jarrett, what do you call it?
Some people, such as me, have referred to this as Colonial Sanders Chicken Fried Club Band.
Okay.
That one.
Did you say
Next
colonial
episode, that's
sandals?
what we're looking at. So if you want to go ahead and listen to it, to have your own opinions, to disagree with us, by all means, go for it. But this has been the Goat Pod. I am Daniel.
I'm Jason.
Jarrett.
I'm Jarrett. I'm Steven.